Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, I'm going to be continuing what I did earlier, doing a follow-up video with this guy that makes no sense. Of course, it had to be a religious individual, of course. But yeah, I just figured I'd do another one, obviously. I'm going to attempt to wrap things up in this video. I'm going to do my best not to make multiple parts. But he keeps saying when he was younger, he watched the original Godzilla movie, which is a lie because a lot of Americans are familiar with the bastard version. I mean, yes, the Japanese version was eventually released, but that was like decades and decades and decades later. I mean, same thing happened with, Gamera. Gamera the Invincible was the bastard version, and that was released multiple times in multiple packets because the copyright for the American version expired, so it's in public domain. So, yes, a lot of companies going to release multiple versions of these movies. I mean, not gonna lie, I own quite a few of these, so yeah. But anyway, point being, even with like Godzilla, they eventually released the Japanese version. Like again, decades upon decades, or after its release. So Gamera and Godzilla, yeah, people didn't see the actual versions outside from Japan until years later. I do mean years later. So it's literally impossible for him to have seen the original cuts. I can say the same thing with a lot of these martial art films. Yes, there's the collections out there that contains the original editions, but they're gonna be hard. It will be hard to find and quite pricey. So yeah, that's something to think about, of course. And I mean, yes, you can buy a lot of the a lot of Asian horror films out there. Uh, you're gonna go physically into the stores, but a lot of the stores may not contain a lot of these, so you may be forced to go online. And yes, the price will vary, but it might be fairly expensive, you can say, depending where you go to, obviously. So yeah, just keep in mind. You got at least nowadays is more easily available compared to when he was younger, of course, and whatnot. I mean, I should be talking because I was around for more than 100 years, so yes, I should know. But point being is that things change. So like, even with the anime, like Blood the Last Vampire, that became an obscure animated film. Of course, that's out of print in the time of the video anyway. That's out of print, but it did get a live action adaptation some years afterwards, which yes also faded into obscurity as well. So not whole lot of people are aware of these movies really. So unless like you're like a hardcore fan of any of these movies I just mentioned, otherwise no one really gonna really know about it like at all. So yeah, I felt like a lot of he's trying to say is just it's a bunch of bullshit. And also considering the fact he's intentionally misleading his listeners to make it as if like he has a point. And of course, a lot of it is just lies. And of course, he's trying to tie everything to Christianity, which is kind of odd that he was specifically go for Japan because, like I mentioned in the previous video, yes, Japan does have Christians in it, but they're the minority over there, whereas over here they're the majority. So there's that. That's something to think about. So as a result, this individual is trying to claim that the Japanese specifically and the Russians lack a moral compass because they're not Christians. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like communists, okay? Just to be clear. But you can't say somebody doesn't have a moral compass just because of the fact they're not Christian. That's moronic. It also makes him sound xenophobic when you think about it. But okay, I just gave you a bit of a setup, I guess. So with that being said, let's just dive right into it. Oh boy, this is painful, really painful. Anyway,
Made the movie Godzilla and its many later incarnations.
funny how you ignore the fact that Godzilla's role did change over the years in films. He was actually a father at some point. Yeah, really, let that sink in. He was actually a daddy for a little while. So yeah, funny you glances over a lot of stuff here. Also, these two companies are Japanese. You don't say nothing about that, huh? They actually saved the video game industry when you think about it. And there's also Taiwan, which, yes, is a country. Just thought I'd throw there. I know Communist China seems to have some beef with people saying that, but I don't care. I'm saying anyway. Fuck them. Not that I'm trying to take sides exactly when it comes to communism or any sort of dictatorship or anything. I'm just playing that out. But yeah, this individual's getting a lot of facts wrong. Again.
Now Godzilla is back as a new movie, and it grossed $196 million in its opening weekend worldwide, $93.2 million in the United States. That's big bucks in the cinema world. And as the New York Times says, Godzilla is still radioactive and spoiling for a fight.
Oh boy, this couldn't be even more intentionally vague, which it is. I mean, are you sure you're talking about the original Godzilla's King Kong or the more recent one? And also, yes, of course, Godzilla is always born in fight, whether with humans, space monsters, or anything else. That's how he is.
In the review by A.O. Scott in the New York Times, he writes, in the old days, after all, Godzilla really meant something. He was the supreme embodiment of atomic age terrors, meting out punishment and also offering redemption for humankind's technological hubris.
No, Godzilla never really suck out redemption on humanity. It's like a capital punishment for the fucked up shit that people had done during the wars and whatnot. And other times, uh, human beings and Godzilla himself had a reluctant alliance to defeat a bigger foe. So,
There is still plenty of that to contend with, he says, but the focus of global anxiety has shifted from nuclear annihilation to climate change and related problems.
what are you talking about? Are you referring to that Godzilla movie? The only one that kind of came out like that was this one. That's about it. Are you referring to this Godzilla movie? You can't. Another problem is that when you're doing it, you're jumping around from movie to movie to movie, then going back and forth in this and that. Stay on topic. Do I have to correct on every single thing you're doing here? I thought we were supposed to be talking about the Godzilla and Kong movie. I thought that was supposed to be the main topic here. But yet instead, you're jumping all over the place.
So even as last week we talked about the new Rosemary's Baby in a so-called post-desecration, post-feminist world,
I'm not sure which version of Rosemary's Baby he's referring to. I'm pretty sure he got it wrong, but there's been more than one version. But of course, you can bring up feminism, since churches seem to have a problem with strong women and whatnot. Oh boy, I'm pretty sure he's not gonna like Wonder Woman at all. The first one and the sequel that they made, because considering the fact that Wonder Woman was always a feminist icon from the very beginning. But what does this got to do with a giant lizard beating the shit out of this sludge thing? Okay.
now we have Godzilla in a new climate change world.
I hate to break it to you, this wasn't exactly anything new. You're like way back. This came out in 1971, and yeah.
In the world that is no longer the Cold War,
Actually, that kind of a thing was used as like a setup for this Godzilla film, so you're wrong again.
but a world in which the enemy now is human beings who will not deal with the realities of climate change.
Well, it's more of an anti-pollution thing going on here, but again, you got it wrong.
The director of the 2014 Godzilla movie, Gareth Edwards, told Time magazine, quote, "My generation, we didn't grow up with World War II or Vietnam or the JFK assassination. The images that are seared into our brains and part of the nightmares are things like tsunamis and Katrina." He went on to say sci-fi and fantasy have always reflected the fears of the time, end quote. That's a very accurate assessment. That last line is really important. And
Well, yes, that's true, but what does any of that we just said have to do with any of the other statements you said previously? You're jumping all over the place.
Christians thinking of the cinema and thinking of popular culture need to think about that.
Okay, the only time that God himself was actually mentioned was in Christopher's Barlante, where towards the end of the movie, the narration makes a comment how humans can be really curious, and it could be a reason as to why Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden and whatnot. But this guy's making out as if that you can't enjoy anything Japanese. I mean, really, man, that seems awfully like I said earlier, xenophobic. Even with the music and whatnot, I can't enjoy that either. Is that what it is? Come on, give me a break. That's so damn stupid. And also, another one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to these movies is that a lot of people seem to believe that Godzilla himself is protecting the nation, which makes absolutely no sense considering the fact he attacked the city quite a few times. And also, it's the land he's protecting. Again, it's the land he's protecting. He's like a lion or any other big animal that wants to stop any invaders that's coming across the land. He's pushing the land, not. Come on.
As he said, sci-fi and fantasy have always reflected the fears of the time.
The original 1954 Godzilla film is classified as a disaster horror film, if you want to be technical about it, I guess. And another note is that the 2014 iteration of the character had nothing to do with what you're talking about whatsoever at all.
That's exactly right. When you look at the movies, the sci-fi and fantasy movies of the period after World War II, then what you see is the Cold War as the background.
Again, you're wrong. At the time when they made the original Godzilla film, again, the Godzilla from 1954, the Japanese government at the time, I said at the time because the more loosely about it, I guess, by the time the original Godzilla film, Godzilla, was released, the Japanese government did not want nobody to make any war theme movies. Not even in a positive way. Nobody was allowed to make any kind of war movies at that time. Over in America, there was a truck ton of them. Over here in America, Sailor Moon is heavily censored because of the fact that there's some lesbian stuff going on. I mean, that's not the only reason, of course, but it's a big part of it. It just seems homophobic when you think about it, but okay. Oh yeah, and speaking of censorship, and in Japan, the pornographic material, was also heavily censored. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, but you're going to have to look high and low for that. But point being, yeah, that's been censored to death when you think about it.
When you see the science fiction and fantasy movies of the 1970s and the 1980s, you see similar things. When you think of Jurassic Park by Steven Spielberg, you think of the kind of genetic manipulation and modern science and technology gone out of control. And now, with Godzilla 2014, climate change is the great worry.
So, again, he's vaguely trying to connect all of this. Godzilla is like a mutated dinosaur or something, and, oh, look, Jurassic Park. Well, he's more a lizard-like thing, but point being, he's trying to vaguely put Jurassic Park in all this, how they're trying to genetically manipulate and whatnot, like, as if they're playing God or something. The 1931 version of Frankenstein that comes to mind immediately when it comes to, humans who will be playing God, and if you do, it's payback. Yeah, that fits right into what you're saying. But oddly enough, this movie's not brought up whatsoever, like, at all. Yeah, okay, let's skip that, I guess. But let's talk about the Japanese because they're godless people. Therefore, these individuals are bad. That seems, again, xenophobic. But you don't make a remark about Hitler being anti-Semitic. Is it because that he himself believed in God? Yeah, I'm going to say yes. That could probably be why you won't criticize him for that.
But the human beings who won't deal with it, they're the great enemy. But from a Christian perspective, the really interesting thing about Godzilla is the fact that there is a deep level of theology embedded in this fantasy movie.
Again, no. First of all, the original film was a horror movie. I mean, these movies morph into sci-fi, fantasy, and a few other things, sure. But it's nothing you're talking about. There's no Christian mythology, Christian analogy in it in whatsoever. It's not about Christians. Again, Japan, for the most part, the Japanese people don't believe in the Bible.
Fiction not only reveals the anxieties and fears of the time, it also reveals the overarching worldview of the times, and that includes what remains of a theological worldview in post-Christian America.
No, that's not, no. Yeah, all you're doing trying to tie Christianity into this, in a rather poor way, sure. But you're just trying to make that you want it to be about Christianity. If anything, you desperately want it to be about that, when in reality it has nothing to do with that. I mean, yes, you can use science fiction and be based on true events. Yeah, that's true. You can use that as a way to make stuff be about metaphors and whatnot, but that doesn't mean you have a point. And I thought we were talking about the 2014 Godzilla movie. I mean, you kind of make it as if like the whole series. Nothing about the series is Christian related.
What comes out clearly in the Godzilla movie is the theme of judgment.
Which Godzilla movie are you talking about? It's not the whole series. There's no specific movie whatsoever that has this. I mean, yes, Godzilla himself, it's like nature taking revenge on humanity for what it has done with the wars, like the Iraq War, Vietnam War, the Cold War, you name it. Yeah, humanity keeps doing that over and over, keeps fighting each other, bombing each other, nukes and everything else, yes. But it has nothing to do with Christians. If anything, the original Godzilla film, a rather depressing one, but if anything, is a cautionary tale of what humans had done to themselves and Mother Earth when you think about it, but okay.
And that was clear in 1954 in the original Godzilla movie, where the judgment wreaked by Godzilla was upon those human beings who dared to tamper with the atomic code.
Again, no, no, no. The original Godzilla film, the Japanese version anyway, is centered on the idea that human beings keep meddling with each other in wars. It's an anti-war movie. It's not what you're saying. Yes, Godzilla himself is I guess given capital punishment in a sense, I guess you can say, for what they had done. But it basically is pointing the fingers of both countries. The original director of the film was actually captured by the Americans for a little while. But okay.
To split the atom and to release the power of nuclear bombs. But now Godzilla's back, and the big concern is the climate, and Godzilla's coming back as the judge, the jury, and the attempted execution.
Again, what Godzilla movie are you talking about? The 2014 one or the original? I don't know. You keep going back and forth. And but no, there's no Christian ties into it. It's not about Christians, and it shouldn't be, like, at all. Of course, it's going to be some sort of conspiracy theory. It's trying to connect the dots when there aren't any. But he's doing it to make it as if like he has like a legitimate point.
Of humanity for its climate and ecological crimes.
Again, what specific Godzilla movie are you talking about? The 2014 film didn't have no climate change. What you're trying to do is try to loosely tie up all these films with the Christian faith-based stories, but that's not the case here. It's that what Godzilla film did it ever do that? Which film? None of these films had ever done that.
Christians should be very interested to know that this theme of judgment pervades in the culture to this extent.
I mean, yes, there's been Godzilla films about the world ending, sure, but never under the political text, like, at all. You're lying.
Our culture wants to hear narratives in which there is a judgment for the wrongs that have been made and there is a sense of justice that is accomplished.
Oh boy, your age is showing. When it comes to pop culture, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. The pop culture in America, with the youth and whatnot. I mean, holy shit, man. You totally missed the mark when it comes to pop culture. I mean, some people don't mind hearing messages in movies, sure. But not everyone, not every youthful person wants to hear it. Some do, some don't, and others are probably indifferent about it. And those who do want to hear messages in the films, despite being old or new, it doesn't mean they want to hear the Christian faith. Maybe the religious young folks, maybe. But you can't say the pop culture as a whole. So, again, you're completely and utterly wrong. You totally missed the point. You sound old as shit. This coming from a guy who's over 100 years old. But holy shit, even I can say you sound old as shit. Man, what the hell, man? Oh, boy. And I mean, yes, there's been Godzilla films that had messages, yes, but even then, it doesn't mean that it was about Christianity at all. And another thing, not every Godzilla film had a message in it, and it just depends which Godzilla film you're talking about. Which up to the point you have not specified really. You just loosey goosey, vaguely hinted at certain movies and whatnot, but even at that, you still haven't explained yourself rather well. You're trying to really bring out the hammer, so to speak. I'm trying to make it seem like these films have some sort of Christian tie-in and some sort of anti-American propaganda thing going on. If there's anybody that has a propaganda thing going on, it's you, like an anti-Japanese propaganda kind of a thing, because the vast majority of Japanese people don't believe in God. They don't believe in Jesus. I mean, some of them do, sure. But it's only like it's just spread. I mean, by which it means like here and there, really. And oh boy, just like with the Koreans, some Koreans believe in the Bible, but not the vast majority. Same with the Chinese, maybe here and there. Or maybe same with the native Indians or the Indians from India, maybe here and there. But most of whom don't believe in that kind of a thing. They have their own belief system in a way when you think about it. But again, you're just utterly wrong. These young folk that you're referring to are more interested in stuff like this. Compared to what you're talking about, they're not really be interested in that kind of a thing, for the most part. So what are you talking about?
A justice that in this film, as you would well expect, is not finally brought about by Godzilla, but rather by the human beings who intervene in the movie. But the big issue here from a
What Godzilla movie are you talking about? Which one?
worldview is the fact that human beings made in God's image can't get away from the incessant desire to see justice and to see judgment and to know that that judgment will happen in a way that all will see.
What are you talking about? When was this a thing in the Godzilla films? When? Tell me when. Be as specific as you can. Ugh. Okay, and another thing is that you don't have to be Christian to be a good person. Come on. How can you say, oh, it's the non-believers that's being vengeful? It's only the non-believers, the atheists, that's being vengeful. When you have Christians such as this,
are worthy of death. His words, not mine. And I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I am not ashamed of the truth of the Word of God.
And, Leviticus 20:13 clearly says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with the woman, both of them have committed an abomination, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And, as a Christian, I believe the Bible, and that's where I get my belief.
Doesn't the Ten Commandments
is livid, about killing babies. They want to do this. They want to destroy. And you go back and, I don't want to, play all this psychological stuff, but nevertheless,
To get there, Jehovah says we have to leave some things behind. That means anything Jehovah doesn't approve of.
But I want everyone to get to paradise.
So does Jehovah. And you know what? People can change.
oh yeah, but God is all loving, unless you're gay. Now who's hostile over here? Yeah, boy, contradiction.
And all will understand. Reviewer Lily Rothman for Time magazine says the hope of the movie is that Godzilla, even as he may crush fake humans underfoot, can help real ones to stay alive. Even a monster, says Gareth Edwards, can make a difference.
Well, yes, there's been many interpretations of Godzilla, sure, and it did change over the years. But the 2014 Godzilla is not inspired by Jesus Christ or any other characters or anything from the film, are not inspired by your version of God. That's not in the 2014 Godzilla film whatsoever, or any other Godzilla films.
The director of the film said, quote, I think that films like Godzilla are like the fantasy punishment for what we've done. The real punishment will happen if we keep going this route.
None of the Godzilla films are doing what you're claiming. The 2014 film, yes, has lots of destruction, yes, lots of monster fights, yes, lots of destruction, but it was never done in the biblical context whatsoever. You're just putting that there to make it seem like you have a legitimate point of view.
Films like this help remind us not to get too complacent and that we should really try and fix some of the things that we've done before it's too late, end quote. Notice all the language about judgment that is embedded in that statement by Gareth Edwards, the director of Godzilla.
All right, I highly doubt the director of the 2014 Godzilla film actually said that. Which he also did Rogue One, by the way, in the one Star Wars film. Little fun fact for you. So he's claiming that this kind of thing is going to happen in real life if you don't follow the Christian way. Which just sounds ridiculous. That just sounds funny to me.
In other words, just as in 1954, Godzilla was to represent justice, so also judgment is to come in the form of Godzilla in 2014.
That's a total lie. Neither films, the original Godzilla film, nor the 2014 one, are inspired by this Christian faith. If anything, as far as I'm concerned, the original creators of these films were never Christian to begin with. They never confirmed to be in that part of the belief, like whatsoever. If anything, it just sounds like you're projecting this onto this because you want it to be about it.
And even as millions of Americans went to see the original Godzilla film and the many films that came thereafter,
that would have been impossible. But because like I mentioned before, all the Godzilla films that came out from the 1954 all the way to 1975, that's a total of 8 movies. Each of the 8 movies had an American bastard version to it. So that's 16 movies altogether, if you do the math here. So the vast majority of Americans were exposed to the bastard versions through reruns on VHS tape. When the original King Kong vs. Godzilla came out, a lot of people viewed this film as anti-American because it was viewed as America versus Japan. Of course, that was not the idea there. It was just two giant monsters beating the hell out of each other. And it's a terrible movie. This movie's god awful, if you ask me. Pretty damn shitty. Like this podcast that this guy's doing. Oh boy. That doesn't mean they have something to do with godless people and whatnot.
Without recognizing that it was propaganda from the Japanese directed against us.
Except that it wasn't. It's just a bad movie. King Kong vs. Godzilla was a terrible film, if you ask me. It's one of the worst films of the franchise. I know it did make a lot of money, and it became one of the most popular Godzilla films from the original series. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it was any good. Not really. Michael Bay's movies make a lot of money, and he's a terrible director. So, yeah.
There are only many people who go to see this film without any understanding of the fact that the moral satisfaction that comes to them by this film is because they're made in God's image, and because God, a just and perfectly righteous God, has put within them a desire to see justice accomplished. And here you have the statement by the very director of the film, writing from a secular perspective, to say,
holy fucking hell, man. You really trying to hammer in the idea that these films have a Christian undertone. They never did. And FYI, I said this before and I say it again. America is not a Christian nation. And it shouldn't be either. Nothing against the good Christians, mind you, I'm just saying. And also, Japan is also not a Christian nation either. And it shouldn't be. Oh boy. What are you, a bunch of conformists?
I think that films like Godzilla are like the fantasy punishment for what we've done. The real punishment, he says, will happen if we keep going this route.
Okay. Godzilla's not a metaphor for the punishment of, of committing to sin. That's basically what he's trying to get at. Godzilla himself is supposed to be a metaphor for humans when they commit sin or whatever. And also, it's not a Christian nation. It shouldn't be. I just got to saying this. It should never be a Christian nation. Now that right there sounds like a bunch of communists, if you ask me. Convert or die.
Just remember what he says there. He speaks of the movie as a fantasy punishment, something you watch on the screen but you know isn't real. But he says there's a real judgment coming.
Are we talking about the 2014 Godzilla movie again? Oh boy. The director had no intention of making it be themed for religion. That's not in the movie whatsoever. It's not implied, it's not directly referenced, it's not in the film in any shape or form. You're the ones putting that in there, not the movie itself.
And he says, speaking of climate change and ecology, if we don't fix our ways, then that's the way it's going to come.
The 2014 Godzilla film does not have a climate change theme to it at all. I mean, yes, realistically speaking, yes, the comedy, the jobs, and all that job market and everything would be affected if these monsters are real, yeah, realistically speaking. But that still doesn't have a point to you, what you're saying.
Well, Mr. Edwards, you are so right and so wrong.
Yes, he's referring to the 2014 Godzilla movie. Again. But the only person that's wrong, it's you. You're getting everything wrong about everything. You couldn't be more wrong even if you tried. I mean, really. My head hurts. None of this makes any sense. Like, at all.
It is going to come. But when that judgment comes, it's not going to be something that can be portrayed in a movie theater. It's not going to be something that is merely going to be about humanity's ecological crimes.
Did we see the same movie? I don't think so. Did you really see it, man? Or you just randomly guess what the plot is about? You just saw some trailers? That's it? So far you went? Man, you have not explained anything. What you have said, the vast majority of it is extremely vague.
It's going to be when the quick and the dead stand before the judge of all. And when all things are revealed, even those unseen and unspoken thoughts and deeds. This summer, a good many movies are going to be released for American entertainment, but as Christians understand, entertainment is never merely entertainment. There's almost always more there than meets the eye.
Films can have message if they want. They don't necessarily have to, but films, regardless of genre, can have messages if they feel like it. Doesn't always have to, it just depends on what the end goal is. And what's wrong with just being entertained? Being entertained itself isn't necessarily wrong.
And that's certainly the case with the release of Godzilla.
Except that it's not, though. You again are projecting. You want it to be about that whatsoever. I take it you didn't really see the movie, like at all. This podcast was probably done before prior to that, and it's been getting a lot of buzz. Yeah, it's been about quite some about good 10 years since the last Godzilla film before this one, and it got a lot of hype before it. Godzilla Final Wars, in some ways, was like an homage, like a tribute to the original Godzilla series from 1954 all the way through 1975, or specifically the 1970s. And then 10 years later, they made the 2014 Godzilla film, which had its own continuity and whatnot. So, what you're saying there is completely wrong. Again.
Finally, we're indebted again to the Financial Times for a major news story that reveals more than it knows it reveals. The story is entitled, Report Finds 4 out of 5 Bets on Sport Are Made Illegally. The reporter is Roger Blitz, writing from...
The Armageddon's coming. The Armageddon's coming. The Armageddon's coming. Okay, I get it. You believe the end of days is coming. You're really, really trying to hammer that in. And you keep repeating the same shit over and over again. I'm bored. Can't we just wrap things up, really? I mean, really. Come on.
London, he writes 4 out of every 5 bets made on sport are placed illegally, leading to $140 billion being laundered each year. That according to a 2-year study on the scale of betting corruption. So let's just back up for a minute. Someone decided that the scale of betting corruption might be so big that someone needed to do a study on it. So they spent a lot of money and spent 2 years trying to find out just how much betting is illegal. Turns out about 80%, 4 out of 5 bets on sport. Football and cricket are most at the risk of manipulation, as the report indicates that organizers struggle to protect events from criminals seeking to exploit the rapid rise of online betting, which accounts for 30% of all sports gambling activity. In many sporting events, both individual and team sports, there are charges of outright manipulation or fixing.
What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with the subject matter at hand? If anything, what does anything have to do with anything? This entire podcast is extremely random as all hell. I mean, holy fucking shit, man. God damn it all. What? What? And gambling doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing either. As long as you keep it moderate, of course, have your own budget, it can be pretty fun. Just, don't get overboard with it, obviously. Of course, just to be clear, not that I'm okay with corruption, okay? No, no. But what he's trying to do, trying to tie in the Christian prophecy to the Godzilla films, as if they're going to actually happen in a sense, metaphorically speaking, not literally, but, stupid.
But regardless of whether or not that takes place, as most assuredly it does, the big picture in this story was the one that they weren't focusing on primarily, and that is the discovery that 4 out of every 5 of these bets is made illegally in the first place, regardless of the legality of the event upon which the wager is made.
Alright, let's just say Alfred and I want to take bets on who's going to win a sports game or basketball game, whoever. And we're just doing it in the comfort of our own living room. He's viewing that kind of a thing as immoral. I mean, dude, what we're doing is none of your business. But okay, whatever. I use this as a metaphor to say that all gambling is terrible, which is a lie. But okay, whatever. This entire thing's just absurd. Alright.
Blitz reports 80% of sports betting around the world is illegal, and the number of illegal operators is impossible even to estimate.
That sounds like a lot of bullshit you come up with, because there's no way in hell that you specifically would have known that. Well, it's not 100% accurate anyway. Gambling isn't illegal. It just depends how you do it that would determine that exactly. And gambling itself, again, doesn't have to be a bad thing as long as you control yourself. Anyway.
The authors of the report that led to this headline story in the Financial Times warn that regulators are failing to keep up with the rapid growth in illegal activity. Well, let's just back up and say, from a Christian worldview, there's no surprise here. The surprise is that people are surprised. How in the world can people decide to do a study on gambling?
Oh, don't be such a pessimist. Oh my God, just listen to you just piss me off. You're such a downer. This is depressing. Can we just end this already? It's so damn depressing. Fucking pissing us people. Yeah, what the hell, man? What's wrong with you? I'm the type of guy to get mad at you just for smoking weed. Oh boy. You old miserable bat.
upon the gambling industry that they already know is crooked, and then come up as if they are shocked, absolutely surprised that 4 out of 5 bets are made illegally in the first place. You're dealing with something that is in itself inherently a moral evil.
Except that it's not, though. As long as you manage it in moderation, gambling can be actually a lot of fun, like I mentioned a moment ago. Just be careful.
And then you add to this the fact that there are governments trying to exploit and capitalize on this moral evil.
And how would you know that? Really, how would you know that? This gambling stuff is somehow proof of what, something.
And so they try to take a moral evil and make a distinction between bets that are legal and illegal. They try to create a safe zone for this kind of very unsafe moral activity. An activity that leads many people to risk what they do not own and must not spend on the vain hope of increasing it, not by means of any kind of legitimate labor or activity or investment, but rather in the vain hope of simply winning at the game of odds. And so you have here
In other words, he wants you to correct his corruption by investing instead. Hey, don't tell me what to do with my own money. That seems like communist talk right there. Fun that you don't control my money, so I'll do what I want with my money, okay? At least I'm not stealing it. Come on. There's been a lot of people who had decent careers from betting. To whatever. Why do I explain this? Your research is heavily flawed here, you know? What the fuck?
exquisite example of humanity at its very most human, in all of its confusions and in all of its self-deceptions. You have a headline story based upon a report that took 2 years and millions of dollars to accomplish, in which the final analysis is not only is there a concern about illegal activity and legal betting, 4 out of 5 bets aren't even legal in the first place. The shock in this, as we said, is that people are shocked by it.
I still don't know what you're talking about here, really. And, okay. How would you know any of that? How would you know any of this? Come on.
But evidently they are. This led to a news story, and it is leading to the accusation that regulators are far behind in regulating this kind of activity. We'll just try to regulate sin.
Well, that's a complete lie, because all you're trying to do is trying to link up to the stuff with the Godzilla movies, how it's anti-American, like how the first Godzilla movie is anti-American, and King Kong vs. Godzilla is anti-American. You just want to link up together somehow, and you're doing terrible.
And see where that gets you. Every single time, it'll get you to a headline like this: whatever you regulate will outpace you. Once you set sin loose, it's loose. You can't create a safe zone for it, and furthermore, you can't morally capitalize on it, because even in trying to make it more moral, you just indicate how immoral it is.
Telling me what to do with my own money and how to spend it and how to make it, doesn't that whole idea go against capitalism? You sound like communist talk right then and there.
Thanks for listening to the briefing.
Well, you can fuck right off, pal. Oh yeah, that was pretty much it. Trying to state that the original unedited version of Godzilla and King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original one from the early 1960s, both his films are somehow anti-American. Though he never specified how or what exactly he's trying to get at is beyond me. Yeah, of course, obviously he was trying to bring the whole Christian belief system, the prophecy at the end of the world. It just seems a lot of the religious folks, not just Christians, but there's also many denominations of Christianity, and many others like the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, or even the Baptist churches and whatnot. Practically every single religion out there, at least a lot of believers anyway, take it as if the end of the world is coming. They always seem to say that. They always seem to be the end of the world is coming. I thought the end of the world was going to come in at when the year 2000 came. You know, when all the machines would go all fucked up or whatever, but it never happened. So yeah, I guess I'll just wrap things up too, folks, because none of this makes any sense whatsoever. I do appreciate anybody's watching. I know this has been a really lengthy video. So like I said, I was trying to just wrap things up, of course. Make sure I just keep it one more video. I really didn't feel like doing multiple videos, if you ask me, folks. And, but yeah, I know some people out there don't mind lengthy videos, so, yeah, I made quite a few lengthy videos anyway, when you think about it. So, thanks for anybody for tuning in. I guess you can say, for anyone that actually listened, that is. So, whoever you are, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and whatnot. But yeah, altogether, I can say that this guy was not making any sense. He was trying to make as if a lot of these films had some Christian thing going on. I mean, they didn't. But yeah, his argument is really flawed. He's really, really flawed. I want to do a podcast response, I guess you can say, responding to his podcast. I mean, but yeah, it's dumb. It's real dumb. None of this made any sense whatsoever. And of course, there's many Christians who are corrupted. And I'm pretty sure there are Christians who had gambled. Whether they find, whether their families and friends or the church followers find out or not is up to question. And I'm pretty sure some of them did in secret. And they made perfectly sure that they had gambled behind people's backs. I do know that there have been many Christian husbands who had cheated on their wives. I mean, women did too, of course. There have been a lot of Christian women who had cheated behind their husband's backs. So he's trying to paint the picture that the only way you can have a great, wonderful life if you're a Christian. That sounds like conformity. So in other words, I'm trying to say that sounds like communist talk. Why exactly do you have to be a Christian in order to have a great life? Didn't Jesus himself say to love thy neighbor and whatnot? You should never force your religion onto other people. That sounds like the exact opposite of what Jesus would have done, assuming he was real, that is. And if you want to give Jesus the benefit of the doubt, maybe a version of him is real. And because a lot of people believe that his stories have been tweaked up so many times that the actual Jesus was buried in all this. And people believe just in a different version of Jesus, not the actual one, which sounds okay plausible, because the Bible itself has been around for centuries, and you mean to tell me not even once it was ever altered? And every book has been altered. If it's been around long enough, it will eventually be altered, unfortunately. And a lot of words, a lot of stuff will be changed up to the point where it'll be completely different. It has happened. If it's a work of fiction and whatnot, or even if it's based on truth, it will eventually be altered in some sort of way. It will eventually happen. Anyway, whatever it is, just, I don't know anymore. Just, I just found this entire thing to be utterly ridiculous, if you ask me. Because none of this, it makes any sense. And it doesn't have to be about Christians in order to be good. It doesn't have to be inspired by the Christian faith. It just seems like an odd obsession that Christians seem to believe that, well, some Christians anyway, seem to believe that in order for a movie to be good, it has to be about Christianity, or at least inspired by Christianity in one way or another. But that's not the case here. It doesn't have to be. Again, it sounds like conformity to me. In order to be a good movie, it has to be about Christianity. That's just stupid. Anyway, whatever. So end this video already. Yeah, I should just end it already. Because that's just stupid. I don't like this movie. I don't like the King Kong, the original King Kong, because like I said before, I thought it was terrible. And I still think it's pretty bad. And, but yeah. Alright, it's just me rambling on this point. I do appreciate anybody for watching, because like I said, it's a very lengthy video. A really lengthy, long-ass video. So, thank you. Thank you anyone that actually stayed tuned for this long. I do appreciate it. I really do. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say, really. Just stupid. Real stupid. None of this makes any sense. But yeah. Man. I really need to get a coffee break. That's what I need to do. Get a coffee break and whatnot. I need to find other things to do, I guess. And yeah, I guess you can say I'm using this as an excuse to talk about giant monster stuff. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and take care. Until next time, I guess. Whatever. See ya. Later, folks. Bye. Yeah.